Welcome to another edition of That Green Beacons podcast. I'm Kelly. Hello. So today we're going to have a very somber kind of podcast because this is a very serious conversation. You ever walk into a room and nothing is said, but you feel it? That tension, that heaviness, that energy. Like something is in the air, just isn't right. That's what hate feels like. It's not always loud. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's invisible, but it spreads. Let me tell you something. People don't always talk about this enough. That hate is a virus. And just like any virus, it doesn't care who you are. It doesn't check your background. It doesn't care how strong you think you are. It doesn't even ask you if you're ready. It just spreads. And the craziest part, a lot of people are carrying it and they don't even know they're infected. Because hate doesn't always look like anger. Sometimes it looks like sarcasm. Sometimes it sounds like, I'm just being real. Sometimes it hides behind jokes, side comments, and eye rolls. But it's there. And if you're around it long enough, you'll start breathing it in. You know, a friend of mine, shout out to Nate, he calls it human smog. Because just like pollution, you don't have to create it to be affected by it, right? Because pollution, you don't create pollution, it just appears. And just think about secondhand smoke. There are people who've never touched a cigarette in their life. They still end up sick. Why? Because they were exposed to it. And that's how hate works. You get exposed to it. And sometimes it's just not as obvious as you think. You could be minding your business, trying to stay positive, trying to grow. And then you're around someone who constantly is negative, constantly complaining, constantly tearing people down. And slowly, you change. Not all at once, but little by little. You get more irritated, you get more guarded, you get more cynical, until one day, you don't even recognize yourself. And all the beauty and love and positivity that you had is out the window like that. Because you have the virus. And that's how it spreads. Not through force, but through proximity. It's the people who you engage with. You can suck in that hate. Misery loves company. I mean, I think everybody heard of that, you know. But just think, it's deeper than that. Misery just doesn't want company. Oh, no. It needs it. Because sitting alone with pain, that's uncomfortable. So what do people do? They project. They criticize. They pull others into the storm just so they don't have to sit alone in it. You know, I know a person who's an addict. And when you're an addict, even though you're no longer an addict, you still live with the addiction. And you have to work every single day to control it. And when you have people that love you, when you have people in your life that really care about you and have your back, they will tap you gently just to remind you. And when I did that for that person, they attacked me. They bashed my name. They accused me of falsehoods. But I knew it wasn't them. I knew it was the addiction. Because they're surrounding themselves with hate and hateful people. And just like that, they didn't caught the virus. But here's the truth. Just because someone hands you their pain doesn't mean you have to carry it. A lot of us was never taught that. We were taught to tolerate it. We were taught to ignore it, be the bigger person, but nobody told us exposure has consequences. Just like people who inhale secondhand smoke, they may never have picked up a cigarette in their life, but just being around that, they suffer the same fate as the person that actually is smoking. And sometimes the people exposing you are the closest people to you. They're your family, they're your friends, they're your co-workers. People you expect to feel safe around. And that's what makes that dangerous. Because you put your guard down. You don't have your guard up when it comes to your friends, your families, your coworkers. Why would you? Why would you have your guard up? These are people who you trust. But you can't think like that. I was always told, treat everyone like universal caution. Universal caution is when someone you're taking care of someone, right? Maybe they have like a wound. You always think to that. You think this person has a incurable disease. So you have to what? Put on a mask, put on your gloves, because you don't want to have contact with the fluid, right? That bodily fluid. And you have to treat everyone like that in the beginning, because you never know who is carrying what, that virus. But sometimes it's too late. And now you're not just dealing with hate, you're absorbing it. And then something even more dangerous happens. You start turning that inward, right? You start questioning yourself, you start doubting yourself, you start shrinking. That's when the virus mutates from external to internal. So what do you do? Because let's be real, you can't always avoid it. You can't always just quit your job, cut off people, or disappear from the world. That's not reality. And the people that do, you still living with that virus. But you can protect yourself. Think of it like this. If hate is a virus, then boundaries are your mask. You have to remember, not everyone deserves full access to you. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not everyone deserves a response. And reacting, that's how it spreads. Every time you match negativity with negativity, you're passing it on. But restraint, that's control. And that's awareness. And that's choosing not to let someone else infect you. Do not let the infection become you. And sometimes protection looks like distance. And not all hate is distance. Sometimes you have to do it out of survival. Have you ever just left a room and suddenly you feel lighter? It's not in your head. It's your body recognizing that you just stepped out of the smog, the human smog. Listen, you don't always have to become what hurt you. You don't have to carry what was never yours. You don't have to breathe in everything that's around you. Because at the end of the day, hate will always exist, just like viruses do. But not everything in the air is meant to be inhaled. I had a situation today where I was in such a good mood. I had a great conversation with someone and I was feeling really good. And I was standing outside and I was greeting parents. We were setting up for an event. And I seen this one parent, her face was just all like, mushed up. And I went over and I said, "Hey, why aren't you smiling?" And she said, "I ain't got shit to smile about." Her kids was right there. And her older daughter was helping the younger kids out the car. And I said, if you need anything, if you need any help, you can come to me. And she said, "I don't need you." I was like, "Have a blessed day." And I walked away. That virus that she had, unfortunately, her kids already caught it. With her, I think it's incurable. It's incurable because some diseases they don't have a cure for it. But her babies, they can be healed. It's not too late for them. And when one of her daughters came into the school, she was so upset and she was crying. And, I was telling her, I'm like, what's the matter? And, her sister said, oh, she wanted to wear the hat and they didn't want her to wear a hat. And that's another story for another time. And her sister was trying to like fix her glasses and she like hit her away and she was just crying and so upset she couldn't calm down. And, when I kind of put her close to me, she put her head on my shoulder. She felt my energy. I knew for her, I had to make sure that she felt like she was heard, protected. I had to do my best to get rid of some of that smog, give her some fresh air in the form of just kindness. Kindness is like fresh air. And she was really upset. And I said, "Hey, want to come take a walk with me?" And she nodded her little head. And she came and took a walk with me and we did some errands and she was able to calm down. Sometimes it's about moving out of a certain environment, moving out of that human smog. I don't claim to know all the answers. I'm a work in progress. But I do know that we have just been made to think that we need to have people like us. If you're not liked, then there's something wrong. But just think, and hopefully the things that I spoke about today can make sense. Because if those people have viruses, they're trying to give it to you. But now you're up one, right? So you wear your mask. What does your mask look like? Your mask may be turning the phone off. Your mask may be turning off your computer, maybe listening to music, maybe going for a walk in silence. I started meditating, right? And it was really hard for me because I'm so used to just always having something in the background. But I think that was happening because I was trying to sound out the thoughts in my head. It's okay to think. It's okay to solve the problems in your head. What's going on with you? Because there's two things. You are either the solution or you're the problem. And nobody wants to sit back and think, I got a virus. Now, if you do have a virus, there's different things that you can do. Forgiveness. You can forgive the people that hurt you. And they always say you don't necessarily do it for them, you do it for you. I was in matter of fact, I was in a meeting today. I'm always in a meeting. And my eye just started twitching. See, I was in a really good mood, but throughout the day, I just kept coming across hate left and right. Kids fighting, parents fighting, listening to the news. It just comes at you all the time. So what do? You got to take care of yourself. And I thought I was taking care of yourself, but let me tell you, at the end of the day, your body never lies. So I'm in this meeting and my eyes start twitching. So I Googled it. What does it mean when your eye is twitching? And it said stress was the number one cause. I said, stress? And I tapped my supervisor and I showed her, and she's like, yes, that happened to me. And she said, it happens right here. And I said, it's happening to me now. And she said, I see it. I let human smog affect me. So you know what I did? When I left that meeting, I went to another school. I talked to the administrators there. I went and picked up some things for my families. And I left out of that human smog. And I surrounded myself with some kindness. And I was able to be kind. And you know what happened? I felt good. I started filling up my cup. And I thought to myself, this is what I need. This is what I needed. I needed to change my environment. And I felt so good, I did a live. For those that was there, hello. I took care of myself. So before I end, I just want to say in this message, stay aware, stay intentional, protect your energy, protect your mind, protect your peace. And remember, just because hate is in the air doesn't mean you have to breathe it in. And if no one has told you today that they love you, I love you. Now go out there and be what? Be great. Bye.